my lifelong journey has been in finding comfort and that sense of aliveness in front of other people on stage, where I can truly be honest, where I can truly be myself. That's been the journey of building fearless communicators. We are people who have studied the human experience through the lens of literature, theater, film, television, storytelling, and everything is storytelling.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou. And boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a new friend that I have met at the incredible Transformational Leadership Council semi-annual event in Montebello, Quebec. He is one of the world's leading thought leaders when it comes to public speaking and storytelling. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Eduardo Placer. Welcome to the show, Eduardo.
Yes, I'm feeling the energy, Nikki. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Good to have you here, man. Eduardo, I really enjoyed connecting with you in Montebello. It was a seminal experience to be at that event, and I got to connect with so many high quality, incredible, beautiful human beings, you being one of them. And I want to tell you a little bit about the show. Yeah. So the show is designed to help serve the entrepreneur, the men and women who have the courage, the guts to go out there and pursue their dreams. They come and listen to this show, not because of me. I'm here every single week. They're here for you. They want to learn from you. They want to get to know and understand the depth of your genius and your expertise. But before they can open themselves up to you, they got to get to know you. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Eduardo Placer?
Well, Nikki, it started in second grade at Show and Tell at Pinewood Acres Elementary School in Miami, Florida. And I don't know if your listeners, know Show and Tell, because it's done in many places, but not all over the world. But to get some backstory, Show and Tell is early in your educational training. You bring something from home and you have to stand up in front of your class and you have to tell them about it. And I was ready. I had the stuffed animal seal that I named Sammy the Seal. And when Mrs. Fox said, "Eddie, are you ready?" I said, "Yes." And I grabbed my stuffed animal seal and I marched to the front of the class. And I said something magical like, seals are mammals. They live in the water. They eat fish. Sometimes they're eaten by sharks. And I thought if there was a Tony Award for best second grade show and tell, clearly I was the winner. And I looked at my classmates and nobody was interested. And there were 12 of them, but it felt like 50. And then I just said, it just came out of my mouth, I named him after someone in this class. And all of a sudden, everybody was very interested in what I was going to say. And then I said, I named him after Brett MacGyver, who was the blonde popular boy that I had a crush on in Miami, Florida in 1986. And it didn't go well, Nikki. It didn't go well. And that was the first time that I tasted terror in my mouth.
Yeah.
Now, there's a well-known statistic, which is that 76% of people suffer from speech anxiety. And I believe everybody else lies. And I think at the root of it, most of us have an experience where we say something in front of people, and there's a moment where the world feels safe and free and everything's amazing, and then all of a sudden we become flooded with self-consciousness. And some people, watching that happen to other people shuts them down, and they stop even the opportunity to get up and speak and say something out loud. Mm. And for me, my lifelong journey has been in finding comfort and that sense of aliveness in front of other people on stage, where I can truly be honest, where I can truly be myself. And that's been the journey of building fearless communicators. Now, being the child of Cuban immigrants from Miami, Florida, what I wanted to be more than anything in the world, Nikki, was an actor. I wanted to sing and dance. And that was not on my parents' bingo card, having a child that was a singer and an actor. And I have an identical twin brother. The big difference between my twin brother and myself is that when we played with our G.I. Joes, my brother played War, and I played War, the musical. My little toys sang and they danced and they had monologues. And, being again, this child of immigrants, I was like I's dotted, T's crossed, like I did unbelievably well growing up in school. I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I went to one of the top universities in the US. I interned on Capitol Hill with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. But really what I desperately wanted to do was sing and dance, and nobody let me do that. So when I graduated from college in 1999, I said, I have played by everybody's rules, and now I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to move to New York City, and I'm going to become an actor. And Nikki, I had the privilege for 15 years of being a professional stage actor, performing primarily in repertory companies all over the United States. But if I think about, and I think this is something that you'd relate to, Nikki, and I think a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast, I think at my core, I've always been someone who wanted to make a difference for other people. Mm. I was educated by Jesuits. Their main motto is being men and women for others. I thought and contemplated the priesthood, as a life of devotion, as someone who is committed to being of service to other people. I thought that my acting career was going to be that. I mean, I did almost 40 productions over the course of 15 years, but I kept finding myself on stage. Like, it was wonderful. It was fun. I had a great time. The audiences enjoyed it, but I really felt like I had more to offer. I had more to give. And what was interesting is that when I was in conservatory as an actor training, all the actors taught public speaking to undergraduates. So I taught public speaking at the college level in San Diego, at UC San Diego. And that's where I got this kernel of an idea, which is like, there's so much I'm interested in. There's so much I'm passionate about. There's so much I care about. I don't have to be the person that speaks about it. I can work with the people that are poised to make the biggest difference and now elevate how they show up to speak. And when I chose powerfully in 2014 to transition and leave that acting dream and really focus my energies on building out fearless communicators, that was at the core of it. And I would say from the beginning, Nikki, the work that I did was global. And I was working with people on the forefront of issues that I think are really important, like justice, sustainability, equity, civil rights, human rights, like really being at the forefront of people who are doing really great things. And that's now where we've been. I'm celebrating 10 years in running my business. Worked with presidential candidates, UN diplomats, social impact entrepreneurs. I love the social impact entrepreneur space. Really, people who are leveraging their purpose for making the world better in an array of different spaces, an array of different causes and issues. And that's been really the blessing. And what's interesting is my entire team are all stage actors by training.
Wow.
So we are also embodied communicators. That's something that ChatGPT is not going to help you with, right? But how do I actually stand in front of an audience and speak the truth? Not as a performance of myself, but as myself, as powerful and as attuned as I can possibly be to make the biggest difference with my audience. And that's now my life's work. And it is one of the greatest privileges of my life to be able to run and steer this company.
Man, there's a lot there. That is a fantastic origin story. But let's break down a few of the things you said. So first of all, from curiosity point of view, you said you went to Capitol Hill and you worked for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Tell me that story. How'd that come about? Why did you do that?
So I have family, So, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is a group of senators and representatives in Congress that identify as being Latino. So it doesn't matter what party they're in, but they are part of the Latino experience, right? And what they had at the time when I did the program, which is literally, Nikki, 30 years ago.
Right.
This year, I'm going back down to celebrate my 30th year.
Wow.
And I was very, very involved as a very young age in issues around politics. Specifically, I was really interested in the environment. So I got rid of styrofoam in my high school cafeteria. I started an environmental club. I created an environmental library. Like I was involved in all things ecological in like 1992, 1993, 1994. And uh, and so this opportunity presented itself where you could apply as a college student and you got a chance to intern on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Now, this is the privilege of also having family and people in your network that look out for you and let you know about opportunities. So, my baptismal godfather and my confirmational sponsor, for those of you who are Catholic, know what that means. Basically, my cousin had done a different program through the Congressional Hispanic Caucus where they did 9-month internships in different governmental offices. You could do it in the Department of State, you could do it in the Department of the Treasury, you could do it for the Foreign Service, you could do it in an array of for the President's office, for the Vice President's office. So he knew that this program existed and he knew that I was very interested in service and public policy and stuff like that. So he told me about the opportunity and then I applied. And you had about maybe 50 students from the United States, and you could be an entering college freshman through like an entering college senior. And those were the ones who could do the summer internship program. Mm. And then for 7 weeks, you interned on Capitol Hill for either a senator or a representative. And the program still exists, although they don't you can't apply directly from high school like I did. That doesn't exist anymore. And I think, frankly, it's probably wiser that they do it that way. But I got the opportunity to meet the American political system in the face and interned for a representative. His name is Representative Alcee Hastings from the state of Florida.
Yeah, I know who he is. I know who he
really got to dance and live the legislative process. And it was
But he's not Hispanic, right?
No, he's African American. African American.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in my district, but not all because his district was also heavily Hispanic, then
I didn't know
he
that.
had an opening. Yeah, it's Florida. So he had an opening, so.
So you jumped on whichever fellow you could have got.
They plugged you. You didn't get to choose.
You didn't get to choose. They plugged you. All right.
However, the summer before, again, because I was very interested in things that were political, I interned in the district office of another Representative Ileana Ros-Lehtinen from the state of Florida. So I also interned for her.
Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, she's Cuban.
But that was different. She's Cuban.
She's Cuban. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, but so Hastings is Democrat, and I think she's a Republican, right?
She's a Republican, correct. Yeah.
So what was it like what were they like? Difference between Democrat, Republican as human beings. Never mind the politics.
It was also a different time. I would say that they were both unbelievably kind, and these are also representatives, right? So these are not senators. These are not people who have 6 years in a term. They get elected and they're running for office again.
Immediately. Yeah, pretty much.
Immediately. So I think that I think they are people who also, because they had interns, took pride in having interns. I remember that Ileana Ros-Lehtinen had us for lunch, one day, which was really sweet, really kind. You're basically doing a lot of constituent delegation work. So at that level, what you're doing, all the letters that at that time people wrote letters, you would respond to letters. And there were like form letters that you would write, but every letter that came in was answered. And that was answered by staff and interns.
The representative, the congressman, the congresswoman, they would not answer letters.
They're not answering unless it's like something like some super high level donor or something, but they're not responding to random constituents.
Or like letters. A personal friend or something like that.
Or personal friend or something like that, right? Yeah. But with Alcee Hastings, this was actually really powerful. I actually wrote in his constituent newsletter something about, he asked me to write something about the Cuban embargo. And, for somebody who was 18 years old, to have to form an opinion, that was like not just based on my family history or background, but to actually really do the due diligence of doing the intellectual exercise of like really looking at the argument. One of my favorite things that they had a special library in Capitol Hill. Like you needed an ID to go in there. I had an ID because I was a congressional intern. But you could go and on any
talking about the Library of Congress, the world's biggest library.
Not right? The Library of Congress. No, this is actually in Congress. There's a library where on any issue, they have all this research on both sides of whatever on all the arguments on either side of it. And you can get it on any issue. And you could ask for a copy and they would give you a copy. So I had these binders that were filled. I mean, those have been shredded and thrown away since then. But I took all of these documents to really lean in and really understand the issue, and I think that the academic and the intellectual rigor of really thinking things through, that was a very important part of that process.
So I had a guest on my podcast who actually is a client of mine as well. His name is Michael Osterlenk, and he's like a polymath. This guy has unbelievable levels of expertise in multiple fields. It's like crazy. Modern Renaissance man, and really soft-spoken dude, but really smart, really like scary smart about a lot of things. So he did a lot of policy work before getting into like the professional coaching side of things, which is what he does now. And he did a lot of domestic and foreign policy work. So that's because I went to Georgetown School of Foreign Service. That's where I got my master's. That's where, so that's kind of my deal. I spent a lot of time in DC.
And the Jesuits.
Yeah, there you go. The Jesuits, you got it. And then I was Library of Congress quite a bit. And I was friends with a fellow named Glenn LeMunion, who was attending Georgetown School of Foreign Service with me while being a staffer for this congressman from Texas. Man, I forget his name right now. He got involved in that Jack Abramoff scandal later, but he was the congressman, so he kind of resigned. But he was one of the Texans that was part of the Gingrich Revolution that had the Republicans take over Congress after 40 years. And anyways, so it was wild being down there. It was wild listening to these guys talk. And, there'd be people back in, like, this was like late 80s, early 90s. And, during the day, they would just vociferously argue and hammer each other. But as soon as the day was over, let's go grab a beer, let's go have a steak. Buddies. I go, man, you guys were hammering each other. He goes, yeah, whatever, man. We're friends. We're just, that's our day job, man. That's not how we live. I'm like, wow. I can't imagine that happening today, but it was.
It's a different time, but I think that I love the idea of the polymath because we're in a new evolution.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting. We both were at TLC together, and we had the privilege to learn from, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Mike Koenig's AI.
AI, which, is something, obviously I'm someone who has been, I've been reading it. It's amazing. It's a really, really great read. And one thing that I found really comforting in that story or in his speaking, and why I think that I'm so proud to be doing the work that I've been doing, right, is that whereas the industrial and the technological age really favored the specialist, it is like a moment for the reemergence of the polymath, multi-hyphenate, multidisciplinarian Renaissance person.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, Nikki, is I am somebody who I know many things. Even as an actor, like I sing, I act, and I dance. I wasn't just like an actor. I wasn't just a musician, and I could do all three, right? When I studied in college, I studied American literature and culture. So it was a fusion of like history, literature, like it was all of these different interdisciplinary studies together. I mean, being an actor, I didn't focus in one genre. I did contemporary musical theater and classical musical theater. I did Shakespeare. I did Moliere. I did Oscar Wilde. I did contemporary realism. I could fit into all of these different spheres. And I think that it's a great muscle to build.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think with my work, and you also work with thought leaders, right? And I think this is the privilege of also my team, who are also stage actors by training also. And I mean, I'm an undergraduate English major from Penn. I have two members on my team that are Columbia comparative lit and English majors.
Yeah.
We are people who have studied the human experience through the lens of literature, theater, film, television, and storytelling. And everything is storytelling.
Everything's storytelling. I agree.
Everything is storytelling. That what we get to be is translators of other people's expertise. if I am a specialist, my story has to be able to communicate to people outside of my specialty, right? For it to get broader appeal, right? If not, you're speaking in the same echo chamber. And how you speak, if you're like I mean, we'll just say an MIT, you know, engineer, special biochemist, whatever. I mean, if you're at an academic conference speaking to the 7 people who know your level of expertise, great. But if you want to translate that to a broader audience, you have to be able to communicate in a way for other people to understand.
Yes.
And that's not about speaking to show off what you know, which is all about you. It's about showing up to speak from a place of service, which
Yes.
is how is it the stories that I'm telling, the way I'm mapping out my content, how is all of this intended to be of highest service to you so that you get it? And if you think about, I mean, we're similar in generation and age, right? I imagine I was born in 77,
I'm
right?
10 years older than you.
People lectured at us.
Yeah.
You sat, you took notes, you could be there, you couldn't be there. There's a handful of teachers that you probably had in your life that made everything pop.
Yep. I know them by name. I remember
By
them.
name. By name, you're like, oh my God. Like I had a teacher, my favorite teacher in Spanish. One of my favorite teachers in high school was my ninth grade Spanish teacher. I can still tell you the mountain ranges of Spain because of how she taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's because she was not just lecturing at us or passing knowledge. She was awakening the curiosity of the possibility of whatever that could mean and made it resonate and soar. And I think that this is not a time to be boring.
No,
This is
no.
not a time to lecture, right? This is the time to really show up and share in a way that elicits a response from us to lean in and be hungry to listen. And I think human beings are curious. One of my favorite things to do, one of my best friends growing up, now he's like a medical pathologist. But what he studied in undergrad was art history.
Wow.
And his favorite thing to study, like his thing that he studied was indigenous art and like Islamic art. You know what I skip when I go to the museum?
What?
That, because I mean, I was taught Renaissance art, or like I want to see the Mona Lisa, or I want to see those things. But you're like, I don't know so much about that. So people tend to skip the stuff that they don't know. But if you go with someone who that is their passion, it lights them up. They can speak to you about the nuance of this, what this thing means, or if you look at this color on this totem, that correlates to this story of this. Then all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, that is so fascinating. That is so interesting. That is so compelling. But that's because they're speaking about something they're really passionate about.
Yes.
And I think that is that contagion. We feel that. We don't just think it, we feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the power of the moment specifically that we're in. You got to speak from a place of passion. Otherwise,
you're going to lose people.
Who cares?
You'll lose people. Nobody gives
Who
a shit.
cares?
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Michael, my polymath friend and client, he worked with some interesting people. So one of the people that he was working with on policy issues was a congressman named Thomas Massey. You heard of that guy?
I do know the name. I don't know, but the name is very familiar. Yeah.
So he's a Republican who gets under everybody's skin because he's like a Republican who actually took seriously, let's cut spending, let's not increase that stuff. So like everybody hates him. Like the Democrats hate him, the Republicans
hate him. Yeah, everyone.
Because he's not playing along with the keep raising, all the spending levels with people. And he was on Theo Vaughn's show, and I listened to the whole thing because he was one of the, back in the day, he was one of the first guys to endorse Trump. But now when Trump wanted to put this big, beautiful bill, he was one of the first people to say, no, this is not a big, beautiful bill. It's an abomination, right? Yeah. So Trump went from, like, you can take videos side by side of Trump saying what a great guy Thomas Massey is, to Trump saying we got to primary Thomas Massey and get rid of this guy. At this, right, like they're just next to each other, same guy, like a few months apart. But what he told me about this guy, and what was very interesting, is he doesn't seem to really care whether he's in office or not. And I was very fascinated there was someone like that out there who's like, talks about policy, like you were talking about policy, knows this side of the issue, the other side of the issue, blah, 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 blah. And then basically when he was on the show, he was talking about how he loves his farm in Kentucky. Can't wait to get back to his farm in Kentucky to do stuff. And I'm like, there's people like that out there. There's people like for whom being in power and like soaking everything up that they can from that position isn't the most important thing in life. And one of the reasons that I, was very much connected with you is because you're very passionate about people, very passionate about human beings, not humanity in the abstract, but the individual human being in front of you. And what I learned from Michael, the polymath, and what he told me about Thomas Massey, whom he did all this work with, is that the people that make the biggest difference in the world don't do it for abstract reasons. They do it for specific reasons and specific people. And I'm wondering if you could comment a bit on that in line of the type of work that you do.
Yeah. I think that's a really beautiful question, and I appreciate the reflection. What I will say is, and I think I may have said this to you and to your wife, right? From a very early age, I was obsessed with the theater. And it was a place that I felt at home because men expressed themselves the way that I did, through song and through dance. It's not something that I saw out in the world, but I could see it in a musical, right? When I was watching Oklahoma or West Side Story or The King and I, right? And I was looking for and conjuring a world that made sense for me, right? Now, I went on to become an actor, right? And create that world for other people, right? And there are two parts to the story. The reality is that the reason why I wanted to be an actor was because I was performing from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, trying to convince everybody that I was someone other than who I was. From as early as the age of 5 or 6 or 7. And there was no place that was safe, because everything felt dangerous. Your home, your church, your school, you're told, do not tell a lie. And you're like, I'm lying. Like, I am literally lying. I can't tell anybody the truth because the truth of who I am is not safe. Like, you just know it instinctively, right? What's interesting is that I became an actor and then was like, I'm tired of playing other people. Now I'm going to leverage everything that I did so that I could ultimately just stand up in front of people and be myself. No show. No mask, no performance, no makeup, Eduardo. And what's interesting is that the word theater comes from the ancient Greek theatron, which means a place for seeing. And yes, it is a place where you actually go to see a story, or you go to see a play or an opera or a ballet or whatever. But it is more than that. It is a mirror. It is a chance for us to see ourselves. So the mirror for me was, as a child, watching men perform and behave in the way that made sense to me. So I saw myself in that, right? So then what I wanted to do was also thinking that I was in this, I needed to be somebody other than who I was to be loved, accepted, safety, etc. And then liberated myself from that mask to ultimately now what I get to do, there's no show, it's me, now being in front of people, like that takes a different skill set than just having a conversation. It's me amped because I'm still on stage, but it's still just me. There's no mask. And what I have been told is that the freedom within which I exist on stage in front of people, unapologetic, fully present, 1000% in service of my audience, that level of freedom is something that people wish for themselves. That is a mirror of what they aspire for them to feel when they're in front of people. And the exercise, and I know, Nikki, that you love lifting weights, and I know that you're in the midst of your weightlifting extravaganza right now.
Next 2 years, brother.
You're like, yeah. And I will say, this is the muscle that needs to be overly worked in this moment of time.
Mm.
We really need to be putting those reps in. And that is the muscle of our heart, specifically connected to empathy.
Mm.
The opportunity to witness somebody else's humanity through the noise, to see human being to human being in all the ways that we are similar and in all the ways that we are different. And I think that muscle is built in the theater.
Mm.
That muscle is built in space and theater in the broader definition of the word, right? It is in the bearing witness to stories and other people sharing honestly about themselves, who they are, where they come from. And it is in that exercise that I think we reconnect to that ritual of what makes us human beings in the first place.
We're going to have another podcast conversation, brother, because this has opened up a lot that we're not going to get to finish today. But that was a powerful answer. Eduardo, if people want to find out more about you and your work, what do you want them to do?
So I'm at www.fearlesscommunicators.com, right? And call me. Let's have time to call me, my team, like any questions that you have around thought leadership, around public speaking, if it's around confidence, if it's around content. Like my commitment is that you show up your best, aligned, authentic, truth telling. So I'm going to share a link with you, Nikki, that you can share with your community, and let's get on a call and let's see how we can support you.
Do that. Send that to me along with your bio and your headshots, and I'll make sure that all gets sent over to my guy who does the podcast production, Chris. We'll make sure that's in there. So, Eduardo, we end each show by asking you, our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? These are your 3 best pieces of life and success advice to take my listener to the next level. What say you?
I'm going to zoom in specifically around public speaking, okay, which is my area of expertise. Number 1, the game is connection, not perfection. Perfection is about you. Connection is about your audience. So the biggest bullet point there is don't memorize. That is a waste of time. That is about how good you can memorize. That has nothing to do with your audience, right? So liberate yourself from that time. That's the first thing that I would say. Okay. Number 2 is before you speak, warm up. Just like it is an athletic activity. Speaking is an athletic activity. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is that we treat speaking as an intellectual exercise, not as a physical, spiritual, and emotional exercise. And you want to get yourself ready. That means showing up, doing some vocal warm-ups. I have a whole warm-up, and when people reach out to me, we'll send it to them so they get it. We have a pre-speaking kind of ritual, like a 5-minute way to get into the zone to really ensure that you are completely in your body and not stuck in your head when you have to speak. Okay, so some type of physical warm-up is important. And then number 3, I would say, is know your anchor story. And Nikki, this is something that you talk about, right? When people ask you, so why did you start your business or why do you do that? That you have a story at the drop of a hat that you can tell that connects people to you and your why and your purpose. And what I would offer is that oftentimes that anchor story is not something that happens at 25 or 30 or 45. I love a story that happens at a formative time in your life.
Yeah.
Like when you're 7 or when you're 8. And what that does is it invites people to see 8-year-old, 9-year-old you. And who doesn't love an 8 or a 9-year-old, right? And it gives people an insight into the world that you come from, right? So for you, Nikki, key to your anchor story is talking about growing up in Iran, right? So I look at you, I see Nikki Ballou. I may not know that you're Iranian or whatever, Persian, right? But the moment you say, I'm 10 and I'm in Iran, all of a sudden I'm in a specific geographical space, location. You're giving me a context to a history and a world because you're anchoring it in a story.
100%.
I started with you in 2nd grade at Show and Tell at Pinewood Acres Elementary in Miami, Florida, right? Yeah. Now, immediately people are like, he's in elementary school. Notice that I'm specific. I'm telling you the year. I'm telling you the name of the school. What people try to do sometimes is they try to be very general, and I can't anchor in. The more specific you are, even though that is not my lived experience, I'm right there with you. Nikki, my father fled Cuba at 11, and so did my mother, right? So the moment that you're in a story about Iran, when you're 10 or 11 years old, now I'm connected to you because I'm feeling my parents through that story, which is part of my story, right? So know your anchor story. At the drop of a hat, you have the 30-second version, you have the 3-minute version, you have the 5-minute version, but you know it immediately. And that is a story. It's a hummable tune. It's like Sweet Caroline. Sweet Caroline, bum, bum, bum. And we love hearing it.
Yeah.
The audience will love it. You don't have to memorize it because it's in your body, and it becomes that hummable tune that people come back to. And that breeds a lot of confidence and consistency in your narrative and in your work. So they hear you, they see you, and they're like, oh, there's that story again. I love it. And if you think about all the greatest speakers, they all have that in their back pocket. Same thing with founders, same thing with their entrepreneurs. That story of why they started the business, formative time, there's a real purpose to it, that people will immediately connect with the story.
Eduardo, these are 3 great expert action steps. Your story's fantastic. Like I said, we're going to have to do a part 2
Love it.
podcast. So let's make sure we do that. Listener, Eduardo Placer is the real deal. Check out his website. Connect with him and his team. I think it's worth your time. And if there's something you heard in this episode that really resonated with you, just give us a like, a rating, a review, a comment. That helps us with the algorithm. And also, if you've got a friend who needed to hear the messages that Eduardo put out today, share the episode with them. Eduardo, thanks for coming on the show, man. An honor to have you here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
And that's a wrap.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.